Well, if you were going to lose the winning streak, at least you found a way to keep the point streak. Avs lose to the Minnesota Wild 3-2 in the shootout. This was not the game I expected. It ended up being really high event. Shots on goal were astronomically high. I think the teams combined for 78 shots on goal in this game. That included overtime, to be fair, but not a whole lot actually happened in overtime. I expected a much more grinded out style of game from Minnesota, but they were willing to play high octane with the Avs. And that's only partially true. Yes, it was high event, but at least on the Avs side of things, there were a lot of not high danger shots. I do think there was maybe a little bit too much settling at times from Colorado, and to be fair, throwing pucks on net isn't the worst decision against a goalie who played quite well in Wallstead today. And while this game was far from perfect, I really am not that upset with what most of the Avs did throughout this game. It's really hard to put together winning streaks in the NHL because you can play well and still lose in the NHL. And to some extent, that's what happened here. The first period was a bit split. I would say the first 10 minutes of it was Minnesota being the better team, and the second 10 was the Avs. Not a coincidence, probably, that there was a power play each way in the first 10. Those would be the only power plays of the night, though, so can't really complain about that side of things. I do think the Avs were a bit sloppy for the majority of the night, especially with their puck work in their own zone and through the neutral zone. But the thing is, that happens. You're not going to play perfect hockey every single night, or ever, even if I did just call the Avs perfect. And the Avs did a reasonably good job of working through it in the first and third periods, at least. That work gets rewarded late in the first period, and the Avs take a lead. Initially, the Avs are going to win an offensive zone face-off here, and a shot's going to come in from Burns trying to keep it simple. It doesn't even get on net, and really, Minnesota gets possession of this puck. They try to curl back and do some fancy stuff, and MacKinnon makes a great play here that I'll show you on the replay, that MacKinnon is just the right man in the right spot. Kaprizov in possession of the puck, curling back along his own wall, and Lecky just chases him down. He gets his stick in there, puts a nice stick lift on it, and then just slaps at the puck. It is fortunate that it ends up being a perfect pass to the front of the crease, just threading the needle, but that's just hard work from Lecky. Yeah, that one's all lucky. Great that MacKinnon finishes it and gets the goal and remains at the top of the NHL in total goals scored, but we know who did the work there. The Avs top line was who they needed to be in this game. Not enough to win it, obviously, but both goals end up coming with your top line out on the ice. Even if you didn't get a great game from a Marty Necas, it's hard not to say the top line didn't do their job. Matching Minnesota's top line, Kirill Kaprizov scores both goals for Minnesota in this game, so you go even on that front, and neither team, at least while you were playing real hockey, got anything from their depth. It's a well-played, relatively even game. Where the Avs did struggle was the second period as a whole. They kind of got dominated by Minnesota for the majority of that period. They gave up 9 high-danger chances in that period alone, so could have been a lot worse. But defensively, they just seemed to struggle, whether it was getting pucks out or effectively denying Minnesota the middle parts of the zone. Felt like Minnesota's feet were making the Avs work a lot in this game. And I think it's a fair shout out to say Minnesota was working their butts off in this game, giving the 110% effort. This very much felt like a playoff game for Minnesota. And the Avs have gotten and will continue to get a lot of that this year. When you're the best team in the league, everyone wants to bring their best against you, and it makes your life harder. It just does. That's not an excuse, it's a reality, and if anything, I'm a little bit disappointed that the Avs didn't do a better job of matching that effort level that Minnesota had at stretches of this game. There were just a few too many instances where it felt like the Avs were chasing play, not keeping up, and frankly, not being the better team. With that being said, some luck still goes Minnesota's way on their first goal. This is the first clean frame of this I got to see coming back from the replay. The puck is already heading in, ricocheting off of Kaprizov's skate and into the net. From the replay, we at least get to see that Minnesota was working up the wall here and then just throwing a puck into the net. And I guess win the faceoff is the thing the Avs could do better here. This is pretty well defended. Landeskog has forced him in deep. Burns is taking Kaprizov. You have Nelson taking his man. There's not a ton here. And Burns even has Kaprizov tied up. It just goes off of a skate. That's a tough bounce. Can I go on a tangent that I've gone on many times before for a moment here? If you are broadcasting a hockey game, your one job is to show the game. So show the game. Look, I don't like it when they miss 1 second and they don't actually catch the face-off, so you don't see who won it and they just come back to a puck in someone's possession. They missed so much live play, they basically didn't even get to show you the goal live, and then it was so bad that the replay didn't even go all the way back to the face-off, which was only 5 or 6 seconds before the goal. Show the live game, please. Look, a lot of goals like that during this 10-game win streak have not been happening. You know those bounces are going to happen across the course of a season. It was finally time for the Avs to pay the piper a little bit on a goal like that. The second goal is a bit more frustrating. Minnesota initially fumbles this breakout and kind of just whips it up the ice, and somehow this almost catches the Avs. It's a little bit disappointing that the Avs weren't more prepared or more set up to be in control here. Parker Kelly has to get on his horse to really be competitive and not create an odd man rush opportunity right off the gap here. But really, the bigger problem is on the backside of this play. Kelly's effort negated what could have been scary, and you should be fine here. You're going to have 2 players going directly to the back post to prevent anything from happening with this puck, and Brent Burns should be tying up Kirill Kaprizov coming down the middle. It just shouldn't be that dangerous of a play. Instead, not only do they fail to get in the passing lane effectively and stop this pass from coming through, Brent Burns just gets worked, and to be fair, Kirill Kaprizov's really good. He does this to a lot of people, but it's a play that didn't have to fall apart, and it ends up in the back of your net. Is it a great play by Minnesota and a nice finish? Sure, absolutely. But the Avs essentially had that play triple covered, and they still couldn't manage to stop it. Do a better job defensively there. Help your goaltender out a little bit. At the end of the day, Wedgwood made 35 saves in regulation to give the Avs a chance in this game, and plays like that are just hanging him out to dry. So after leading after the first, the Avs are trailing after the second. And tip of the cap to the Avs in the third period. They played really well. They pushed the pace. They created a ton of dangerous opportunities. They were playing quality Avalanche hockey. Jesper Wallstedt was also playing quite well. But Gabe Landeskog made up his mind that the Avs were not losing this game in regulation, and he just would not take no for an answer. Landeskog has already worked his butt off for an initial offensive zone possession up with the top line in the third period here. When this puck comes out, he just continues to work. He beats the Wild to a puck, taps it into the zone, beats the Wild to it again, just going to work, out-muscling guys, gets a great opportunity off the side of the net. Chaos reigns, multiple players fall over. He actually gets smacked in the face while he's on the ice, so now he's in pain as the Avs recollect. Lecky's able to get it out to safety. The Avs find control. They reset. Makar is eventually going to make a nice pass to MacKinnon through here, and by now Landeskog has recovered and he's getting up and going to the back post. He hasn't snuck away though. He's still going to be contested, so as MacKinnon tries what is admittedly a crazy pass that somehow works, the first attempt doesn't go for Landy, but he's just too strong. He's too much man, outworks his guy, gets a second opportunity and finishes. That version of Gabe Landeskog, if the Avs can get that guy consistently, the Avs are winning the Stanley Cup. I'm sorry. This team is already too talented with a Gabe that has been at times half in, half out trying to find his footing throughout this season so far. That guy makes the Avs too deep. No one's stopping that. And I know this is just one play that's a beautiful goal from Gabe, but it was all night from him. I mentioned at times it felt like the Avs' effort levels maybe weren't quite up to the high level that Minnesota was putting out tonight. Gabe's absolutely was. He was working his tail off in this game, leading by example. That's what captains do. And look, do the Avs have a bad second period? Yes, but there were still plenty of opportunities for the Avs to win this game in regulation. They were putting quality plays out there more often than not, but Wallstedt was stopping them, or Minnesota would make a nice defensive play. Yeah, it turns out there are 2 teams out on the ice on any given night, and Minnesota was pretty good tonight. So credit where credit's due to both sides. Neither team was able to find it in regulation, and the overtime was boring and pointless. 3-on-3 overtime has truly been ruined. And I don't really know what you want me to say about shootouts. The Avs are bad at them. Their goalies are bad at them. Their shooters are bad at them. They've not been good at them for a very long time outside of a select few players that no longer play for the team. And Val Nichushkin, I guess, but he's not back yet. And sadly, the winning streak comes to an end. This loss does not change the fact that the Avs are the best team in the NHL. It does not change the fact that the Avs are riding off into the sunset, almost certain to hold down the top spot. It does not even change the fact that the Avs are streaking. They still have a 15-game point streak going since they got this one past regulation. You do need your defense to play better than it did for stretches in this game, and I do think you need more out of your depth forwards, but you'll start getting that a lot more once you get guys back. Nichushkin is going to be back very soon, maybe even tomorrow. And then you have a couple of guys that are still a few weeks away, but should be coming back in the relative future. The Avs are going to start getting guys back, and they have not lost a game in regulation in this month of November. Yes, the NHL should be afraid of this team, and boy should they be afraid of this version of Gabe Landeskog. That is the end of this game video review. Thank you for watching. I am Rudo, and thank goodness I don't have to bleach my hair.